I am right in the middle of doing my 1 hour in the morning business plan, top-Wiki's business plan. And I was just cross-pollinating the worldviews of different people, specifically my Uncle David and my best friend Paul Robinson. Because I was just thinking about how my Uncle David is basically like a moral warrior. He has much higher ethics than the rest of us, and he cares about high ethics. So, for example, when Paul and I were in Iraq, going outside the wire, outside the hazard zone, into the war zone, and you know, Paul, I don't even know, man. Like Paul has so many confirmed kills that they stopped counting. He probably has like 47 or something. And so when we got attacked on September 11th, 2001, my Uncle David would say like, hey, the terrorist who downed the two trade towers, flew a plane into the Pentagon, downed a plane in Pennsylvania, they're probably having a really bad day, or those terrorists are probably having a really bad week. And we shouldn't use their personal failings as an excuse to retaliate against them. So yeah, and I was just thinking about that because basically he would say we need to turn the other cheek. Whereas like Paul and I are, outside the wire in helicopters, bumping into each other in secret places we're not really even supposed to be at in Iraq. And we're stationed together on Fort Hood, and then stationed together in Mosul, and then bumped into each other outside the wire in different locations, outposts, checkpoints, etc. On this side of a hill, behind bushes. That sounds kind of gay. Sorry. But no, I was just thinking about like cross-pollinating these different worldviews, how like I basically consider my Uncle David a better person than the rest of us. And so I understand him. And I was just thinking about like a lot of people have been asking me like so when I say a lot of people, maybe like 5, 10 people have asked me or told me, not even asked me, just told me. Paul probably remembers like when we were stationed at Fort Hood together, there was this girl or woman who had like 20 different boyfriends, and she literally got all of them to sign their life insurance over to her. So if one of them died, she got hooked up with like $500,000 or $1 million in life insurance. And I got my first wife a $1 million life insurance policy because I got an SGLI kicker policy. So it was very important to me that if I died, Irene got $1 million. So me getting $3.1 million for 3 people, Sohee, Suhan, and Sakhang, is well within my context. And I feel like it wouldn't be fair if I didn't. Again, cross-pollinating ideas. But so this woman, she signed, not Paul. Paul's like, whenever I think of Iraq and Paul and I in Iraq, and people would be constantly telling us we're like the most heroic people ever, and I got the Hero of Northern Iraq award and his trophy. Paul's kind of like Keith Rigger. Keith Rigger, Kona Keith. He did like 5 Ironmans in 5 days, back to back to back to back to back. Or most of us, can't even do like 1 Ironman in 1 day. Keith has done so many Ironmans that he stopped counting. Paul's the same thing. And like, he's so much more of a badass than the rest of us. Like, he's so much stronger and tougher that he just takes it for granted and doesn't even really think about it. It's the truth. Like I said, he literally, if you look at his trophy case and you look at his records, he's literally single-handedly won the war on terror. And then I just compare that again with my Uncle David's worldview, like, well, that's not necessarily a good thing, and maybe we should be ashamed of ourselves from, invading all these Muslim countries and basically only attacking brown people. And, my Uncle David would look at like Barack Obama, for example, going to Israel and saying no country on earth would tolerate bombs flying over their border, violating their sovereignty, like killing their women and children. Well, Paul and I helped out with drones crossing the borders of all these sovereign nations, carrying bombs, violating the national sovereignty, basically only killing brown people, only killing Muslim people. It's very likely that we participate in a genocide against Muslim brown-skinned people. Like, it's very, very likely. It's ethically very gray, but it's also, depending on how you look at it, not that gray. But yeah, I was just thinking about my dad. Like, even when I was in Iraq with Paul, and people would be like, "You're so heroic, Nyan," or "Paul, you're so damn heroic." And somewhere in the back of my mind, I'd hear my dad say, "There's a thin line between being heroic and being stupid," which is kind of true. Paul and I tend to be super brave, which is kind of another way of saying we're like, even my sister Sinead was like, "How did you go on 129 missions? Like, how is it even possible?" And I was like, some of them were basically one way. They're just like, "We need 5 volunteers," and I just got done fighting with Irina over video chat or something, and I was like, man, and they're like, "You might not make it back." And I was like, sign me up. Like, I'm ready to go. So, again, just cross-pollinating different worldviews. So one of the reasons why, if I cross the billionaire mark, I'm gonna hook up like probably 20 people with $20 million each, is not. I don't look at it as a bribe necessarily. I really don't. I kind of look at it like that woman who got the life insurance policies of 20 different guys, to where if any one of them died, she got like $1 million. She didn't get in trouble because ethically it was gray. It wasn't technically not allowed. So, because I'm hoping, like, if Paul crosses the billionaire mark, he'll be like, "You remember when you..." Because Paul also knows that guys, we would do that as guys too. Like, there'd be 20 guys who didn't have a wife or a girlfriend, and we would all, like, basically, if one of us died, we'd have a gentleman's agreement to split the pot. And there's like one other way to do it too. So my thing is, like, if my brother Joe crosses the billionaire mark before I do, or my sister Sinead crosses the billionaire mark before I do, or if my friend Oliver crosses the billionaire mark before I do, basically, I want to create like an unspoken gentleman's agreement that that they'll hook me up. Doesn't mean that, again, the beauty of gentleman agreements is it's based upon super high ethics, such as countries having gentleman agreements that you won't have so many sympathizers in your country that people are celebrating when the towers come down. And so that would be like a violation of a gentleman's agreement, that, yeah, you have crazy religious people in your country, you have crazy religious people in our country, but we need to keep them in check.